She had 7 days to save her dying mother, her starving siblings, and the family land, with $847 she didn't have. So she wrote a letter to the most feared man in Montana Territory, a man they called the Scarred Devil, a man who had killed 7 men, a man no woman dared approach. Her offer? Herself, her body, her freedom, in exchange for survival. But what she found behind those scars wasn't a monster. It was a man hiding wounds deeper than her own. And what started as a desperate bargain would become something neither of them expected. This is the story of a woman who sold herself to save everything she loved, and discovered that the price she paid bought her something she never knew she needed. What you'll take from this story: true strength isn't refusing to need anyone. It's having the courage to let someone see your weakness and choosing to stay anyway. Love isn't a feeling. It's a decision you make every single day, especially on the hard ones. If this story touched something in you, leave a comment telling me, what would you sacrifice for the people you love? Hit that like button if you believe broken people can build beautiful things together. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss stories that stay with you long after they end. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their scars don't define them. Now, let's begin. The rain fell like God himself was weeping over the fresh grave. Mara Ellington stood at the edge of the hole in the earth, watching them lower her father into the cold Montana mud. She did not cry. She had forgotten how. Around her, the townsfolk of Copper Ridge huddled under black umbrellas, whispering words they thought she could not hear. Killed himself over the debt, they said, left nothing but bills for his daughter. Shame about those children. What will become of them now? Mara's jaw tightened until her teeth ached. Her father had not killed himself. She knew this in her bones, in her blood, in every fiber of her being. Henry Ellington would never abandon his family, not for debt, not for shame, not for anything, but no one would believe her. The preacher finished his words, meaningless sounds that scattered in the wind. The mourners began to drift away, eager to escape the cold rain and the uncomfortable reality of poverty and death. Mara did not move. She stared at the wooden coffin, remembering her father's face during the viewing, the bruise on the back of his skull that the undertaker had tried to hide, the wound that did not match a fall from a horse. Someone had killed him. She was certain of it. But who? And why? You have my deepest sympathies, Miss Ellington. The voice was smooth as oil on water. Mara turned to find Victor Crane standing beside her, his expensive black suit pristine despite the rain. An umbrella sheltered his silver-streaked hair, held by a servant who seemed to exist only for that purpose. Crane was the wealthiest man in Copper Ridge. He owned the bank, the general store, half the buildings on Main Street. He smiled at charity events and tipped his hat to ladies, and everyone thought him a pillar of the community. Mara had always felt something cold slither through her gut when he looked at her. "Mr. Crane," she said flatly, "I understand you find yourself in a difficult position." His eyes traveled over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "Your father owed a considerable sum to my bank, $847 to be precise, due in 7 days. I am aware of the debt." Crane stepped closer. The servant with the umbrella followed, keeping his master dry. "I would like to offer you a solution, a generous one given the circumstances." Mara waited. "Sell me your land. I will forgive the entire debt and give you an additional $50, enough to relocate your family somewhere more suitable." The Ellington Ranch had been in her family for 2 generations. Her grandfather had built the house with his own hands. Her father had worked that land until his fingers bled. $50 for all of it. "And if I refuse," Mara said quietly. Crane's smile never wavered. "Then the bank will seize the property. Your mother, in her condition, will be put out. Your brother and sister will become wards of the territory." He paused, letting the words sink in like poison. "Unless, of course, you would prefer a more personal arrangement. His meaning was clear, disgustingly clear. Something hot and sharp rose in Mara's chest. Before she could think, her hand cracked across Crane's face with enough force to snap his head sideways. The sound echoed across the cemetery. Crane touched his cheek where a red handprint was already blooming. The servant gaped. A few lingering mourners turned to stare. "You have 7 days, Miss Ellington." Crane's voice had lost its smoothness. Now it was cold. "Oh, it is hard, cruel. After that, I will take everything, including what you do not want to lose." He turned and walked away, the servant scrambling to keep the umbrella over him. Mara watched him go, her hand still stinging, her heart pounding like a war drum. 7 days. She had 7 days to save her family. Dang. The Ellington cabin smelled of sickness and despair. Mara pushed through the door to find her mother propped up in bed, coughing into a bloody handkerchief. The consumption had been eating at her for months now, stealing her breath and her strength piece by piece. Clara sat beside the bed, her 9-year-old face pinched with worry. Thomas stood by the window, staring out at nothing. At 14, he was trying so hard to be the man of the house, but his eyes held a haunted look that had not been there before the night their father died. He had been there that night. Mara knew it. Something had happened. Something that had locked his memories away behind a wall of silence and nightmares. She could not push him. Not yet. He was too fragile. "Mara," her mother rasped. "The funeral. How was it?" "Fine, Mama." Mara forced the lie through her teeth. Everything was fine. She moved to the small kitchen area, checking their supplies. A half bag of flour, some salt pork, a few withered potatoes. Enough for maybe 3 more days if they stretched it. Clara appeared at her elbow. "Mara, when can we have meat again? I am so hungry." The words drove into Mara's heart like nails. "Soon, sweetheart. Soon." Another lie. She was getting good at them. After Clara and Thomas had gone to bed, after her mother had slipped into fitful sleep, Mara sat alone at her father's desk and opened the drawer she had never been allowed to touch. Inside, she found a leather journal filled with her father's handwriting. Land surveys, mineral markings, strange symbols and numbers she did not understand. And one word circled multiple times in dark ink. Silver. What had her father discovered? What secret had he stumbled upon? And had that secret gotten him killed? A knock at the door made her jump. She grabbed her father's pistol from the drawer and approached carefully. It was Margaret Holloway, the neighbor woman from the next ranch over. She held a covered dish, her kind face creased with concern. "Brought you some stew, dear. Figured you could use a hot meal." Mara's pride reared up, sharp and defensive. "We do not need charity. We are not beggars." The words came out harsher than she intended. Margaret's face fell. "Of course not, dear. I did not mean to imply." She set the dish on the porch railing. "I will just leave this here, in case." She hurried away into the rain, leaving Mara standing in the doorway, shame and stubbornness warring in her chest. After Margaret was gone, Mara sank down onto the porch and finally let herself cry. 7 days, $847, a dying mother, 2 children depending on her, and a secret her father had died protecting. What was she supposed to do? The Silver Creek Saloon was not the kind of place respectable women visited, but Mara had stopped being respectable the moment she decided to survive. She found Sarah Blackwood in a back room, the widow who ran the establishment counting coins at a scarred wooden table. Sarah was perhaps 40, with knowing eyes and a past she never discussed. "Miss Ellington," Sarah raised an eyebrow. "You are far from home. I need information. About Lucas Harding." Something flickered across Sarah's face. Surprise, perhaps? Or respect? Or warning? The scarred devil. Why would a girl like you want to know about him? Mara had heard the stories. Everyone had. Lucas Harding owned the largest ranch in the territory. He was wealthy beyond measure, powerful beyond question, and utterly alone. A fire had taken half his face years ago, leaving him scarred and solitary. And he was looking for a wife. I heard he is willing to pay for a bride, Mara said. Pay well? Sarah studied her for a long moment. He is. But you should know what you're getting into. They call him the Scarred Devil for a reason. Killed 7 men that anyone knows of. Some say more. He is not the kind of man who forgives or forgets. Is he the kind of man who keeps his word? Sarah smiled, a small, sad curve of her lips. That he is. Lucas Harding has never broken a promise in his life, even the ones that hurt him. Then that is all I need to know. Sarah leaned forward. Most girls who ask about him run when they hear the stories. You did not even flinch. Mara stood, squaring her shoulders. I have learned that the monsters who smile are more dangerous than the ones who do not hide what they are. She walked out into the night, her father's journal hidden in her dress, her heart full of terrible purpose. Back home, Mara sat at the kitchen table and wrote a letter by candlelight. Dear Mr. Harding, it began. I understand you are seeking a wife. I am seeking salvation. Perhaps we can help each other. She wrote of her skills, managing a household, keeping books, riding horses. She did not mention that she could shoot a pistol at 50 yards, or that she had once broken a wild stallion on a bet. Some things were better demonstrated than described. She wrote of her terms. Her family would be cared for. Her mother would receive medicine. Her siblings would be fed and sheltered. She wrote of her price, herself. When she finished, her hand was steady. Her heart was not. This is what it has come to, she thought. Selling myself to a stranger to save the people I love. But what choice did she have? None. There was no choice. There was only survival. A small sound made her turn. Thomas stood in the doorway, his face pale in the candlelight. Thomas, you should be asleep. He did not respond. His eyes were fixed on something far away, something only he could see. I saw something, he whispered. The night Pa died. I saw... He trailed off, shaking his head, pressing his palms against his temples. I cannot remember. I cannot. It hurts to try. Mara went to him, pulling him into her arms. Do not force it. Whatever happened, it will come back when you are ready, I promise. But even as she held her brother, her mind was racing. Thomas had seen something. Something important. Something that might prove their father was murdered. She just had to keep him safe long enough to remember. The next morning, Mara rode to Copper Ridge and posted her letter. Then she returned home and waited. She had cast her lot with a man they called the Scarred Devil. Now she would find out if the devil kept his bargains. The response came faster than Mara expected. 2 days after she posted her letter, a rider appeared at the Ellington cabin carrying a single sheet of paper sealed with red wax. Miss Ellington, it read. Present yourself at my ranch tomorrow at noon. We will discuss your proposal. The debt to Crane's bank has been paid in full. Consider it a gesture of good faith. Lucas Harding. Mara read the letter 3 times. The debt was paid. Just like that. $847, erased with a stroke of a pen. She did not know whether to feel relieved or terrified. The ride to Harding Ranch took 3 hours through rough country. Mara went alone, despite her mother's weak protests. She rode her father's horse, wore her best dress, and carried his pistol hidden in the folds of her skirt. If Lucas Harding was half the monster people said he was, she wanted to be prepared. Halfway there, two men stepped out of the brush and blocked the road. Rough-looking characters with hungry eyes and hands on their gun belts. "Well now," said the larger one. "Pretty girl riding alone. That ain't safe." Mara's hand moved faster than thought. Her pistol was out and cocked before either man could blink. She fired once, putting a hole through the larger man's hat. "The next one will not be a hat," she said calmly. "Move." They moved, scrambling over each other in their haste to get away. After they were gone, Mara realized her hands were shaking. She had never actually shot at a person before. The bravado had been a mask, thin as paper. But it had worked. She steadied herself and rode on. Harding Ranch sprawled across the valley like a kingdom. Thousands of acres of prime grazing land. Hundreds of cattle dotting the distant hills. A massive stone house that looked more like a fortress than a home. Men worked everywhere, mending fences, herding livestock, going about the business of a prosperous operation. They all stopped to stare as Mara rode through the main gate. A young man hurried forward to meet her. He was handsome in a boyish way with sandy hair and an easy smile. "Miss Ellington? I am Jake Morrison. I work for Mr. Harding. Let me help you down." Mara dismounted without assistance. "I do not need a man to carry me." Jake laughed, seeming genuinely delighted. "I like you already." There was something about him, some quality that made Mara want to trust him. He seemed kind, warm, everything this cold place was not. But she noticed his eyes cataloging her, taking in details with a sharpness that did not match his friendly manner. She filed that observation away for later. "This way," Jake said. "The boss is waiting." Lucas Harding stood in the shadows of his study, a silhouette against the light from the window. Mara stepped through the door and stopped. Then he moved into the light, and she saw his face for the first time. The left side was a ruin. Scar tissue twisted from temple to jaw, pulling at his eye and the corner of his mouth. The damage was severe, old, healed badly. It must have been agonizing. Mara did not step back, did not flinch, did not look away. She met his eyes, one undamaged and one surrounded by scarred flesh, both the color of storm clouds. "You are not afraid," Lucas said. It was not a question. "I have seen things more frightening than scars, Mr. Harding. I have seen my sister's hunger." A long pause. Lucas studied her with an intensity that made her feel like he was reading her soul. "Most people cannot look at me for more than a few seconds. I am not most people. And I did not ride 3 hours to stare at the floor." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite respect, but close. "Sit down, Miss Ellington. We have business to discuss." They sat across from each other at a massive oak desk, negotiating like generals before a battle. "I need a legal wife," Lucas said bluntly. "No love, no romance. You will bear my children, manage my household, and in return, you will receive everything you need. Money, medicine for your mother, education for your siblings, safety." Mara met his directness with her own. "I need the debt paid immediately. You have already done that. I need medicine for my mother, food for my family, and security for my brother and sister. As for bearing children, I need time." "How long?" "Until I am ready. Not before." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "You are bargaining with me." "I am ensuring I am not a slave, Mr. Harding. There is a difference between a wife and property." "Fair enough." His voice held something that might have been approval. "What else?" Mara lifted her chin. "Your word. Your binding word. That you will never raise a hand to me in anger." Lucas's expression went cold. But not with anger, with something darker, older, more painful. "The man who raised me beat my mother until she could not walk some days. I swore I would die before I became him. You have my word. Absolutely." Mara believed him. She did not know why, but she did. "What do you have to offer besides your body?" Lucas asked. "I know how to manage a ranch. I can keep books and handle correspondence. And Mara glanced out the window where a cowhand was struggling with an unbroken horse. I ride better than any man out there. Lucas followed her gaze. Prove it. The horse was a demon in animal form. A stallion, black as midnight, wild as the Montana wind. 3 men had already tried and failed to break him. One was nursing a broken arm. Mara walked to the corral, aware of every eye on the ranch watching her. She climbed the fence and dropped into the enclosure. The stallion screamed and charged. Mara stood her ground. At the last second, she stepped aside, grabbed a handful of mane, and swung herself onto the horse's back. What followed was 10 minutes of chaos. The stallion bucked and twisted and did everything in its power to throw her. Mara held on with her knees and her will and her desperate determination to survive. And slowly, impossibly, the horse began to calm. When she finally brought him to a standstill, sides heaving and head bowed, the watching cowboys erupted in cheers. Mara dismounted, walked back to where Lucas stood, and met his eyes. "Saturday," she said. "You said you need a wife by your birthday. That is in 2 weeks. Make it Saturday, and you will have one." Lucas looked at her for a long moment. Something had changed in his face. The coldness was still there, but underneath it, almost invisible, was the faintest trace of wonder. Saturday it is. Miles away in Copper Ridge, Victor Crane received the news. Harding paid off the Ellington debt. His voice was soft. Dangerous. Why? His man shifted nervously. Word is he is marrying the girl this Saturday. Crane's hand tightened on his glass until the knuckles went white. The Ellington land sat on top of the richest silver deposit in Montana Territory. Crane had killed Henry Ellington to get it, had planned to take the daughter too, one way or another. And now Lucas Harding had swooped in and stolen his prize. "Send word to our friend on the Harding ranch," Crane said. "I want to know everything about this marriage, everything." His man nodded and hurried out. Crane sat in the darkness, planning his next move. This was not over, not by a long shot. Mara rode home with the debt erased and her future sold. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt hollow, empty, like she had given away something precious that she could never get back. But her family would survive. Her mother would get medicine. Clara would eat. Thomas would be safe. That was worth anything, even her freedom. She pulled out her father's journal and studied it in the fading light. Silver. What had her father known? What secret had he died for? And what had she just walked into? The wedding was nothing like Mara had imagined as a girl. No flowers, no music, no joyful celebration. Just a cold church, a nervous preacher, and a handful of witnesses who looked like they would rather be anywhere else. Mara wore her mother's wedding dress, taken in hastily to fit her smaller frame. Lucas wore black, as always. His scarred face was unreadable as the preacher rushed through the vows. "Do you, Lucas James Harding, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "And do you, Mara Catherine Ellington, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Mara looked at the stranger she was binding herself to, the man with the ruined face and the empty eyes, the man they called the Scarred Devil. "I do. With the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." No kiss. Lucas simply nodded at her, a gesture of acknowledgement rather than affection. And it was done. Mara Ellington ceased to exist. In her place stood Mara Harding, wife to a man she did not know and might never love. The trouble started before they even left the church. Victor Crane stood on the steps outside, a bouquet of white roses in his hands and poison in his smile. "Congratulations, Mrs. Harding." He held out the flowers. "I hope you know what you are getting into." Lucas moved so fast Mara barely saw it. One moment he was beside her. The next he was between her and Crane, his body a wall of barely controlled violence. "She is my wife now. Do not ever come near her again." The 2 men stared at each other. Something passed between them. History. Hatred. A feud that went deeper than Mara understood. "We will meet again, Harding." Crane's voice was silk over steel. "This is not over." He walked away, leaving the roses scattered on the church steps like fallen snow. Lucas watched him go, his hands clenched into fists. "Who is he to you?" Mara asked quietly. Lucas did not answer for a long moment. Then, without looking at her, he said, "An enemy. That is all you need to know for now." He offered his arm. She took it. Together, they walked into their new life. The master bedroom of Harding Ranch was the largest room Mara had ever seen. Stone walls, heavy wooden furniture, a fireplace big enough to roast an ox, and dominating everything, a massive four-poster bed draped in dark fabric. Mara stood in the center of the room, her heart hammering against her ribs. This was it, the moment she had been dreading, the price she had agreed to pay. "You are trembling," Lucas said from the doorway. "I am not trembling." She was. God help her, she was. Lucas closed the door and moved past her to a chest at the foot of the bed. He pulled out a thick wool blanket and walked to the far side of the room. Then he lay down on the floor. Mara stared at him. "What are you doing?" "I said you would have time." "I keep my word." His voice was flat, emotionless. "But do not mistake this for kindness, Mrs. Harding. I am not a good man. I am just a man who honors his agreements." He turned his back to her and fell silent. Mara stood there for a long time, not understanding. She had expected demands, force, the brutal claiming of her body that she had prepared herself to endure. Instead, she got a man sleeping on his own floor. She climbed into the massive bed alone, pulling the covers up to her chin. Sleep did not come. The sound woke her sometime after midnight. Footsteps outside the window. Soft, careful. Someone trying not to be heard. Mara's hand found the pistol under her pillow before her eyes were fully open. Across the room, Lucas was already on his feet, a knife gleaming in his hand. "You sleep with a gun," he said. "Do you not?" For a moment, his mouth almost curved, the ghost of a smile quickly suppressed. "Perhaps we suit each other better than I thought." He moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. Then his whole body went rigid. "Stay here," he said, and was out the door before Mara could respond. She did not stay. The figure Lucas tackled in the yard was not what Mara expected. Not a man. A woman, old, with wild white hair and wilder eyes. She fought against Lucas's grip, scratching and biting like a trapped animal. "Mother." Lucas's voice cracked. "Mother, it is me. It is Lucas." The woman went still. Her eyes focused for a moment, finding his face. "Lucas, my boy." Her hand reached up, trembling, touching his scarred cheek. "My beautiful boy. What happened to you? What happened?" Then the clarity was gone. Her eyes went distant again, and she began humming a lullaby, rocking back and forth in his arms. Mara watched, frozen. Lucas's mother. Alive. Everyone said she had died in the fire years ago. Everyone was wrong. Lucas looked up and saw Mara standing there, his face twisted with something she could not name. Shame, maybe, or grief, or both. "Get Bill," he said quietly. "The foreman. He knows. He will take her back to her cabin." They did not speak until the old woman was gone, led away by a grizzled man who treated her with surprising gentleness. Then Lucas sat heavily on the porch steps and put his head in his hands. "She survived the fire," he said. His voice was hollow. Her body did, her mind did not. "Why does everyone think she is dead?" "Because I let them think it. Because Crane would use her against me if he knew. Because seeing her like this, it is my fault. The fire was meant for me. She pushed me out of the window. The roof collapsed on her. She lived, but she lost herself that night." Mara sat down beside him, close enough to feel his warmth but not touching. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you are my wife now. Because you will see things in this house. Because I'm tired of carrying every secret alone." He finally looked at her. His eyes were wet. "I am not a good man, Mara. I have killed. I have hurt. I have done things that would make you run if you knew them all. But I did not kill my mother. I just could not save her. Mara thought about her father, about the wound on his head that did not match a fall, about the journal hidden in her trunk, about all the secrets she was carrying, too. I will not tell anyone, she said, and I will not run. Lucas studied her face for a long moment, looking for lies, maybe, or judgment, or fear. He found none of those things. Why not? He asked. Because I think we are more alike than either of us wants to admit. She stood and walked back inside, leaving him alone with his ghosts. The next morning, Mara woke to find Lucas already gone. A note on the bureau said he would be working the cattle and would return by evening. And by Mrs. Kowalski, the housekeeper, would show her around the house. Mrs. Kowalski turned out to be a stern woman with iron-gray hair and the disposition of a drill sergeant. She made it very clear that she had run this household for 10 years and did not need some girl half her age telling her how to do it. Mara simply nodded and took notes. She could win the woman over later. Or not. It did not matter. What mattered was learning the lay of the land. The house was enormous. 2 floors of bedrooms and sitting rooms and storage areas. A kitchen bigger than the entire Ellington cabin. A study lined with books that Lucas apparently never read. And in the west wing, a locked door that Mrs. Kowalski pointedly did not mention. Mara did not ask about it, but she noticed. In the afternoon, she explored the ranch itself. Barn after barn of horses and equipment, bunkhouses for the hands, a smithy, a tannery. Everything needed to run a small empire. She found Jake Morrison near the corrals, brushing down a horse. Mrs. Harding. He tipped his hat with that easy smile. How was your first night? Quiet, she said. Mr. Harding is a man of few words. That he is. Jake moved closer, lowering his voice. Look, I know it is not my place to say, but if you ever need anything, a friend, someone to talk to, I am here. His kindness seemed genuine. His eyes seemed warm. But Mara remembered how he had watched her that first day, how he had catalogued every detail, how he always seemed to know exactly where to find her. Thank you, Jake. I will remember that. She walked away, feeling his gaze on her back. Something was wrong here. She could feel it. She just could not see it yet. Lucas returned after dark, covered in trail dust and exhaustion. They ate dinner in silence. The food was good, prepared by Mrs. Kowalski, but neither of them seemed to taste it. After the meal, Lucas retreated to his study. Mara retreated to the bedroom. She pulled out her father's journal and studied it by candlelight. Silver, land surveys, mineral markings. Her father had found something worth killing for. And she was married to a man with his own secrets, living in a house full of locked doors and hidden madwomen. What had she gotten herself into? That night, she dreamed of fire. The first week of marriage taught Mara one thing. Her husband was a ghost. Lucas left before dawn and returned after dark. They shared a bedroom, but nothing else. He slept on the floor every night without complaint, and by morning he was gone before she woke. She saw more of his back than his face. It should not have bothered her. This was a business arrangement, not a love match. But the loneliness crept in anyway, settling into her bones like Montana winter. She missed her family, missed Clara's laughter and Thomas's quiet presence, missed even her mother's labored breathing, because at least that meant she was still alive. Lucas had kept his word about them. A doctor visited the Ellington cabin twice a week now, bringing medicine that actually helped. Food arrived regularly. Thomas had new boots. Clara had a warm coat. But Mara was not there to see it. She was here in this stone fortress, surrounded by people who did not want her. Mrs. Kowalski made her disapproval clear in 1,000 small ways. The late Mrs. Harding, she would say, always did things differently. Or, we have our own ways here. Perhaps they do things differently where you come from. Mara bit her tongue and smiled and kept working. She reviewed the household accounts and found them impeccable. She inspected the food stores and found them well stocked. She tried to make suggestions and found them ignored. There was nothing for her to do here. No purpose, no value. Except one thing. She noticed the discrepancy while reviewing the cattle records. 300 head of cattle had been recorded as sold to a buyer in Helena. But the payment received was only enough for 200 head. Someone was skimming, stealing livestock and pocketing the difference. Mara did not tell anyone what she found. Instead, she started paying attention. The trail led to the south pasture. Fresh tracks, recent, heading toward the property line. Too many hooves for a normal cattle movement. Too late in the day for legitimate ranch work. Mara followed on horseback, keeping to the tree line for cover. Mrs. Harding. She spun in the saddle, hand going to her pistol. Jake Morrison held up his hands, laughing. Easy there. I come in peace. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same. He nudged his horse closer, falling in beside her. Saw you riding out alone. Figured you might want company. I was just exploring. Out by the south pasture? Jake raised an eyebrow. That is rough country. Not safe for a woman alone. I can take care of myself. Oh, I believe it. Saw what you did to that stallion? He grinned. But still, let me ride with you. Boss would have my hide if something happened to you. They rode together in silence for a while. Jake pointed out landmarks, shared stories about the ranch, made her laugh despite herself. He was easy to talk to, warm where Lucas was cold, open where her husband was closed, almost too easy. Your father, Jake said eventually. I heard what happened. I am sorry. Thank you. Must be hard. Coming here so soon after. Mara looked at him. His face was sympathetic. His eyes were watching, waiting. I do what I have to do, she said carefully, for my family. That is admirable. Family is everything. Yes, it is. She almost told him about the journal, about her suspicions, about the word silver circled in her father's handwriting. Something stopped her. Instinct, maybe. The same feeling that had kept her alive this long. We should head back, she said. It is getting dark. Lucas was waiting when they returned. He stood by the corral, arms crossed, watching them ride in. His face was unreadable, but his eyes followed Jake with a coldness that could freeze fire. Mr. Harding. Jake dismounted smoothly. Just keeping the missus company. She was out riding alone, I can see that. Lucas's voice could have cut glass. Go tend to your duties, Jake. Jake tipped his hat and walked away. But not before shooting Mara a look she could not interpret. You like Jake, Lucas said after he was gone. He is kind. Kind. Lucas's jaw tightened. Men who are kind to beautiful women usually have reasons. Are you jealous? His head snapped toward her. I do not get jealous. I just protect what is mine. I am not property, Mara shot back. His expression flickered. Something almost like pain crossed his scarred face. No, he said quietly. You are not. He walked away, leaving her alone with her confusion. That night, Mara could not sleep. She lay in the massive bed, listening to Lucas's breathing from the floor, turning her father's journal over and over in her mind. Finally, she got up and crept to Lucas's study. The room was dark, lit only by moonlight through the window. She found the ranch records easily enough and started cross-referencing with her own notes. The cattle theft was systematic, clever. Someone who knew the operation well enough to hide their tracks. A sound behind her made her freeze. A masked figure was climbing through the window. Mara grabbed a paperweight from the desk and threw it. The figure ducked, stumbled, knocked over a lamp. She screamed. Footsteps thundered through the house. The study door burst open and Lucas appeared, gun drawn. The intruder bolted for the window, papers scattering in his wake. Lucas fired once, twice, then gave chase. Mara followed. They cornered the thief at the property line, Lucas on horseback, Mara close behind. But the man was fast. He reached his own horse and vanished into the darkness before they could catch him. Damn it! Lucas holstered his weapon. Gone. He dropped some papers. Mara dismounted and gathered them by moonlight. Her blood ran cold. "Lucas, these are about my father." Lucas went very still. "You knew." Mara's voice shook. "You knew about my father before you married me." A long silence. "Then I suspected." "Suspected what?" "That he was murdered. That Crane did it. I have been investigating for months." "Why? Why do you care about a dead rancher?" "Because Crane is my enemy," Lucas said flatly. "Because he has been trying to destroy me for 10 years. Because your father's land sits between my property and his, and whoever controls that land controls everything. So you married me to get my land. I married you to protect you." Lucas's voice hardened. "You were in Crane's crosshairs whether I married you or not. At least this way you are under my roof, under my protection. You should have told me." "Would you have trusted a stranger with that information? Would you have believed me?" Mara wanted to argue. But he was right. She would not have believed him, would not have trusted him. "No more secrets," she said finally. "If we are doing this together, we do it honestly. I have information too." "What information?" She told him about the journal, about the word silver, about her father's strange notes and surveys. Lucas listened in silence. When she finished, his expression had changed. "Your father found the silver deposit," he said slowly. "The one Crane has been looking for. That is why he died, and that is why Crane wants my land." "Yes." Lucas met her eyes. "And that is why he will not stop until he has it, or until we stop him." "We," Mara repeated. "We." Lucas held out his hand. "Partners." After a long moment, Mara took it. "Partners." They rode back to the ranch in silence, but it was a different kind of silence now. Not the cold distance of strangers. Something more like the quiet understanding of allies. At the house, Lucas paused before going inside. "Mara, yes, the cattle thief. I think I know who it is. But I need more proof before I act." "Who?" He shook his head. "Not yet. Trust me on this." She did not trust him, not entirely, but she was beginning to understand him. "All right," she said, "but when you have proof, you tell me first." He nodded once and disappeared into the house. Mara stayed outside for a long moment, looking up at the stars. She had come here to save her family. She had expected a monster. Instead, she had found a man with secrets as deep as her own. Maybe together they could uncover the truth, or maybe together they would burn. The fire started just before dawn. Mara woke to screaming horses and the smell of smoke. She was out of bed and running before her mind fully registered what was happening. Lucas was ahead of her, already pulling on boots, shouting orders. "The horse barn!" Someone shouted from the yard. "The whole thing is going up." The flames were everywhere, orange and red and hungry, devouring the wooden structure like a living thing. Horses screamed inside, trapped by fallen beams and walls of fire. Mara ran toward the inferno without thinking. "Mara, no." Lucas grabbed her arm. "There are horses in there." "I know. I will go. You cannot." The fire. She saw it then. The terror in his eyes. Not for the horses. Not for the barn. For himself. Lucas Harding, the scarred devil, the man who had killed 7 men and feared nothing, was terrified of fire. Of course he was. Fire had taken half his face. Fire had stolen his mother's mind. Fire had nearly killed him. And the barn was fully engulfed now, flames licking at the sky, heat pressing against them like a physical force. "I will go," Mara said. "I will get them out." She pulled free and ran into the burning barn. The smoke hit her like a fist. She pulled her shawl over her mouth and nose, squinting through the haze. 3 horses were still in their stalls, rearing and kicking, eyes rolling with terror. Mara reached the first one, cut its lead rope, slapped its flank, and sent it bolting toward the door. Second horse. Same thing. Third horse. A beam crashed down 6 inches from her head. Sparks exploded around her. The heat was unbearable now, searing her lungs, blistering her skin. She cut the third horse free, but the animal would not move, frozen with fear. "Come on!" Mara pulled at the lead. "Come on, you stupid animal!" Another beam groaned overhead. She looked up and saw it falling. Then arms wrapped around her and pulled her backward. Lucas. He had come into the fire. Despite his terror. Despite everything. He had come. They dove together as the beam crashed down. Flames roared around them. The horse finally bolted, nearly trampling them. "This way!" Lucas's voice was barely audible over the inferno. "Stay low." They crawled through the smoke and the fire and the death. Lucas shielded her body with his own, taking the worst of the heat on his back. Finally, impossibly, they burst out into the cool morning air. Hands pulled them away from the burning barn. Someone threw water on them. Someone else was shouting for the doctor. Mara collapsed on the ground, coughing and gasping. Beside her, Lucas was doing the same. His shirt was scorched, his arms red with fresh burns. But he was alive. They were both alive. The doctor bandaged Lucas's burns while Mara watched. "Second degree," he said. "Not too serious. Keep them clean and change the dressings twice a day." He gathered his things. "You were lucky. Both of you." After he left, Mara sat beside the bed where Lucas lay. "You came in after me." Her voice was rough from the smoke. "Of course I did. You are terrified of fire." Lucas was silent for a long moment. Then, "Yes. Then why?" "Because you were in there." He met her eyes. "Because I could not stand outside and watch you burn." Something shifted between them. Something that had been building since the wedding night. Since the moment she saw him vulnerable with his mad mother in his arms. Mara reached out and touched his scarred face. He went absolutely still. Like a wild animal, uncertain whether to flee or fight. "Does it hurt?" she asked. "The scars, not anymore. Not physically." She traced the ridges of damaged tissue, the way it pulled at his eye, the way it twisted his mouth. "You are not ugly," she said. "You are not a monster. You do not know what I have done. Then tell me." The story came out slowly. 10 years ago, Lucas had worked for a man named Garrett, a rich rancher with a mean streak a mile wide. "He raped my best friend's wife," Lucas said. "Beat her so bad she nearly died. The law did nothing. So I did. You killed him. Put a bullet between his eyes. I would do it again." Garrett's men had come for revenge. They had burned Lucas's home in the night, with his mother inside. She had pushed him out a window just as the roof collapsed. "I thought she died," Lucas said. "For 3 years I thought she died. Then I found her in an asylum in Helena. They had been torturing her, starving her. I brought her here, and I have kept her hidden ever since. Crane knows about this. Crane was Garrett's business partner. He has been trying to destroy me ever since. The fire at the barn tonight. That was him, sending a message." Mara absorbed this. The feud was older and deeper than she had understood. "There is more," Lucas said. His voice dropped. "Something I have never told anyone. Tell me." "During the gunfight with Garrett's men, a boy ran out of one of the buildings. I thought he was carrying a weapon. I shot before I saw clearly." Lucas's voice broke. "He was 12 years old. He was carrying a stick." The silence stretched between them. "That is why you think you are a monster," Mara said finally. "That is why I know it." She did not offer absolution, could not. A child was dead and nothing could change that. But she did not pull away either. "I have secrets too," she said. "Things I am ashamed of." "Like what?" "Like my pride. Like refusing help when my family was starving because I was too stubborn to admit I needed it. Like blaming myself for my father's death because I was not there to stop it." Lucas looked at her. Really looked at her. "You could not have stopped it. Neither could you." She took his hand. "We both carry guilt for things we could not control. Maybe that makes us alike. Maybe it does." The moment was broken by a thundering on the door. Jake burst in, face white with panic. "Mrs. Harding, your brother, he has been taken." The note was written in elegant script. "Return the land deed or lose your brother. You have until sunset tomorrow." No signature. None was needed. Crane. Mara felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Thomas, her little brother, in the hands of a murderer. "I will kill him." Her voice did not sound like her own. "I will kill him with my bare hands." Not alone. Lucas was already out of bed, pulling on his boots despite the bandages. "We go together. You are injured. I have ridden with worse." He met her eyes. "He has your brother because of me, because of our feud. I will not let you face this alone." Mara wanted to argue, but there was no time, and truthfully, she needed him. Together then, together. Jake was waiting when they came downstairs. "I want to come with you," he said. "You will need every gun." Lucas hesitated, then nodded. "Saddle 3 horses. We ride in 10 minutes. Jake hurried to obey. Mara watched him go. Something nagged at her. Something wrong. "Jake knew exactly where to find us earlier," she said quietly. "When we were in the barn office, I noticed. And the fire started in the horse barn, the one Jake is responsible for." Lucas's jaw tightened. "I know, but I need proof before I act. And if he betrays us, then I will deal with him." They gathered weapons and supplies. Mara strapped on her pistol and grabbed a rifle. Lucas did the same, moving stiffly but steadily. As they walked to the horses, Lucas paused. "Mara. Yes. If something happens to me tonight, promise me something. Nothing is going to happen. Promise me. If I die, you will finish this. You will bring down Crane. You will protect your family. Whatever it takes." She met his eyes. "I promise." "Good." He swung into the saddle, wincing at the pain in his arms. "Now, let us go get your brother." They rode through the night. The trail led into the mountains, following paths that only outlaws and desperate men knew. Lucas led the way, reading signs in the darkness that Mara could not see. Jake rode behind them, silent and watchful. Mara kept him in her peripheral vision, kept her hand near her pistol. If he was the traitor, she would know soon enough. Dawn found them overlooking an abandoned mining camp. 6 buildings, mostly collapsed, a working mine shaft, and guards. Mara counted 8 men patrolling the perimeter. "Your brother is probably in the main building," Lucas said quietly, "the one with the light. How do we get in? I go in the front, draw their attention. You go around back and find Thomas." "What about me?" Jake asked. "You watch the horses." Lucas's voice was flat. "Cover our escape." Jake's face tightened. "I can help. Let me come with you." "Horses need watching. Stay here." Something flickered in Jake's eyes, frustration or guilt. Mara could not tell. She crept through the pre-dawn shadows, pistol in hand. The back of the main building had a window cracked and dirty. She peered through and saw Thomas tied to a chair, a guard standing over him. Her brother's face was bruised but defiant. That was good. He was fighting. From the front of the camp came the sound of gunfire. Lucas had engaged. Mara did not hesitate. She smashed through the window, rolled, and shot the guard before he could raise his weapon. "Thomas!" She cut his bonds with her knife. "Can you walk?" "Mara," his voice cracked. I remember everything. Tell me later, we need to go." She pulled him toward the window, but he stopped her. "Number. Listen. The night Pa died. I saw him. I saw Crane. Pa was on his knees. Crane was talking about silver, about the land. Then he pulled out a gun and—" Thomas's face crumpled. Tears streamed down his cheeks. "I saw him kill Pa, Mara. I saw everything." Mara pulled him close, holding him tight. "I know," she whispered. "I know, and we are going to make him pay, but right now we need to move." They made it out of the building and into the chaos. Lucas was holding off 4 men near the mine entrance, using a stack of old timbers for cover. Bodies lay in the dirt around him. He had been busy. "Mara!" he shouted. "Go! Get him out!" She grabbed Thomas and ran. They were almost to the horses when Jake stepped out of the shadows. "Stop!" His voice was different now, harder, colder. "I cannot let you leave." Mara raised her pistol. "Jake, what are you doing?" "What I was paid to do." He aimed his own weapon at her. "Crane sent me here months ago, to watch, to report, to wait for the right moment. You are his spy." "I was." Jake's face twisted with anguish. "Then I met you, and everything got complicated." From behind them, Lucas appeared. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead, but his gun was steady. "Put it down, Jake. I cannot." Jake's hand shook. "Crane will kill me if I let them go, and I will kill you if you do not." The standoff stretched eternal. 3 guns, 3 people, 1 impossible choice. Then Jake's face changed. Something broke in his eyes. "I am sorry," he said to Mara. "I did not want this. I did not know I would—" A shot rang out from behind Jake. Mad Dog Miller emerged from the shadows, pistol smoking. "Crane said no loose ends," he growled. Jake spun, firing even as the bullet hit him. His shot caught Mad Dog in the chest. Both men fell. Mara ran to Jake. Blood soaked his shirt, spreading fast. "Your father's journal," he gasped. "The silver mine. It is all real. Tell Lucas." "I'm sorry. I never meant—" His eyes went glassy. His breathing stopped. Jacob Morrison died in the dirt, a traitor who found redemption too late. Lucas pulled Mara away from the body. "We need to go. More of Crane's men will be coming. But Jake is dead, and we will be too if we do not move." He was right. Mara knew he was right. She grabbed Thomas and ran. The ride back was a nightmare. Lucas had taken a bullet in the shoulder during the fight. He rode hunched over his horse, pale and sweating, leaving a trail of blood. "You need to stop," Mara said. "Let me look at the wound." "No time. Crane knows we took Thomas. He will send more men. You will die if we do not stop. Then I will die. But you will be safe. Stubborn fool." Mara pulled alongside him and grabbed his reins. "Stop, now." He stopped. She cleaned the wound as best she could with water from her canteen. The bullet had passed through cleanly. He would live if infection did not set in. "This is going to hurt," she warned. "Do it." She poured whiskey from his saddlebag into the wound. Lucas went rigid, jaw clenched, but did not make a sound. "Good," Mara said. "You can scream if you need to." "I never scream." She almost smiled. "Of course you do not." She bandaged him with strips torn from her petticoat. It was not elegant, but it would hold. "Can you ride? Can you stop asking foolish questions?" This time she did smile. They made it back to the ranch at noon. Lucas collapsed from his horse before the hands could reach him. Mara shouted for the doctor, for blankets, for help. Thomas stood in the chaos, shell-shocked and silent. Mara turned to him. "Are you all right?" He nodded slowly. "Then I remember everything now. Everything about the night Pa died. I know. We can stop him now. Crane. We can tell the marshal. We will." Mara pulled her brother into her arms. "But first I need to make sure my husband does not die." She did not notice when she started thinking of Lucas as her husband. Not just a business arrangement, not just a name, something more. Lucas hovered between life and death for 3 days. Fever, infection. The doctor shook his head and muttered about blood loss and sepsis and prayers. Mara did not pray. She worked. She changed his bandages every 4 hours. She forced broth between his cracked lips. She wiped the sweat from his scarred face and held his hand when the nightmares came. And they came often. In his delirium, Lucas spoke of things he would never admit awake. "Mother," his voice was broken, childlike. "Do not leave me. Please do not leave me. I am here." Mara squeezed his hand. "I am not going anywhere, Mara." He said her name like a prayer. Do not go, please. She climbed into the bed beside him, gathering his burning body in her arms. I am here. I am staying. Sleep. He clutched her like a drowning man. And finally, the fever dreams subsided. On the fourth morning, Lucas opened his eyes. Mara was asleep beside him, dark circles under her eyes, her hair tangled and unwashed. She looked exhausted, worn, beautiful. You stayed. His voice was a rasp. She stirred, blinking awake. Of course I stayed. Why? She considered the question, really considered it. Because I wanted to, she said finally. Because I could not bear the thought of you dying alone. Lucas stared at her. Something shifted in his face. The walls he had built, the defenses he had maintained for a decade, crumbled just a little. I do not deserve you. Probably not. She almost smiled. But you are stuck with me anyway. The kiss, when it came, was inevitable. Slow, careful. Two damaged people reaching for each other across an ocean of pain. When they finally broke apart, Lucas rested his forehead against hers. What happens now? He asked. Now we finish this. Mara pulled back, her eyes hardening. Crane has to pay for what he did. To my father, to your family, to everyone he has destroyed. We need proof. Something the territorial marshal will accept. We have Thomas's testimony. The word of a traumatized boy. Crane's lawyers will tear it apart. Then we need more. Mara thought of her father's journal. There has to be something. Paperwork. Records. Proof that Crane knew about the silver and killed my father to get it. That kind of proof would be in his office, his safe. Then that is where we look. They planned carefully. Lucas would ride to Helena and present what evidence they had to the territorial marshal, Thomas's testimony, the journal entries, the pattern of Crane's crimes. It might not be enough for a conviction, but it would be enough to launch an investigation. Meanwhile, Mara would stay at the ranch and act normal, keep Crane from suspecting until Lucas could return with the law. It was a dangerous plan. If Crane realized what they were doing before Lucas reached Helena, everything would fall apart. But it was the only plan they had. The night before Lucas left, Mara came to him in their bedroom. He was packing, moving stiffly but steadily. The wound was healing. He would ride. I need to tell you something, she said. Lucas turned. I was so proud when I came here, so determined to do everything myself, to never need anyone. Her voice caught, and that pride almost got my sister killed, almost got you killed. I kept refusing help because I thought needing people made me weak, and now I think maybe strength is knowing when you cannot do it alone. Lucas crossed to her. That might be the hardest lesson there is. You taught me. By being so stubborn about doing everything yourself that I saw myself in you. He laughed, a real laugh, rare and precious. We are quite a pair. Yes, we are. That night, for the first time, they came together as husband and wife. Not because of obligation or contract, but because they chose each other. Afterward, lying tangled in the sheets, Mara said, I came here to sell myself. I thought that was all I had to offer, and now I know I was not selling anything. I was finding something I did not know I was looking for. Lucas pulled her closer. When I come back, we start over. Build something real. Promise, I keep my word. You know that. Yes. She did know that. It was the one thing she had always known about him. Then come back, she kissed him softly. And we will build something real. Dawn came too soon. Lucas saddled his horse while Mara watched from the porch. Thomas stood beside her, his young face grave. Bring back the marshal, Thomas said. Bring back justice. Lucas nodded. I will. He turned to Mara, held her gaze. 48 hours. If I am not back by then, you will be back. But if I am not... He pressed his personal pistol into her hands. Anyone threatens you, do not hesitate. I never do. He kissed her one last time. Then he mounted and rode away. Mara watched until he disappeared over the horizon. Then she turned to face whatever came next. Crane came the day after Lucas left. His carriage rolled up to the Harding Ranch house at precisely noon. He stepped out like he owned the place, silver-headed cane gleaming in the sunlight. Mrs. Harding. His smile could have curdled milk. I heard about your husband's unfortunate journey. Such a long ride, so dangerous. He knows, Mara thought. He knows everything. But she kept her face blank. Mr. Crane, what brings you here? Concern for a neighbor. He walked closer. A young wife, left alone. Vulnerable. I thought I might offer my assistance. I do not need assistance. Crane's eyes hardened. Everyone needs assistance eventually. The question is whether they accept it gracefully or have it forced upon them. He invited her to dinner at his house to discuss business. Every instinct screamed at Mara to refuse. But she needed to buy time. Lucas needed at least another day to reach Helena. If she could keep Crane talking, keep him confident, maybe she could delay whatever he was planning. I will come, she said, alone. Mrs. Kowalski tried to stop her. The ranch hands offered to escort her. Mara refused them all. Pride, that old enemy, still whispering that she could handle anything alone. Crane's house was a monument to wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers, imported furniture, paintings from Europe, all of it bought with blood and stolen silver. Mara sat across from him at a polished dining table, her pistol hidden in the folds of her dress. You are a remarkable woman, Crane said, swirling wine in his glass. I admire you, truly. What do you want? Direct, I like that. He set down the glass. I want what I have always wanted. The Ellington land, the silver underneath it, everything your father died protecting. So you admit it. Mara's heart pounded. You killed him. Your father was a fool who refused to see reason. Crane's mask slipped, revealing the monster beneath. He found the silver deposit, refused to sell, threatened to go to the authorities. What choice did I have? You chose murder. I chose efficiency. He leaned forward. And now you have a choice. Sign over the land deed. Walk away. I will even let your family live. And if I refuse? Crane smiled. The door opened. Two of his men dragged someone in. Clara. Mara's blood turned to ice. Her little sister, 9 years old, with terror in her eyes and tears on her cheeks. Mara. Clara sobbed. Mara, please help me. Sign the deed. Crane pulled a document from his pocket. Or watch your sister die. You are a monster. I am a businessman. Sign. Mara looked at Clara. At the guns pointed at her baby sister. Her pride screamed at her to fight. Her love demanded she surrender. Love won. Release Clara first. Then I will sign. Crane considered, then nodded. Take the girl outside. One of the men escorted Clara out. Mara heard her horse riding away with a ranch hand Mara recognized. One of hers. He must have followed, despite her orders. Now. Crane pushed the deed toward her. Sign. Mara signed. She signed the paper. But she did not give up. As Crane led her through the house to retrieve the original land surveys, Mara watched, waited, calculated. The guard on her left was lazy, did not watch her hands. The one on her right was distracted by something outside. Now. Mara moved like lightning. Elbow to the first guard's throat, knee to the second's groin. Her pistol out and firing before either could react. One fell. The other scrambled for cover. Mara ran. She burst out the back door into the night. A horse. She needed a horse. There. Crane's own stallion, tied to the hitching post. She cut the reins and swung into the saddle. Behind her, men shouted. Guns fired. Mara rode like the devil himself was chasing her. Maybe he was. She reached the ranch at dawn. Bill Crawford, the old foreman, met her at the gate. Mrs. Harding, thank God, the girl is safe. But Crane, I know. Mara dismounted on shaking legs. He is coming. How many men do we have? 5 who I trust. The rest have run or cannot be counted on. 5 men against Crane's army. Impossible odds. But Mara was done running. "Send Clara and Thomas and my mother to the lion shack in the mountains," she said. "They stay there until this is over. And you. I stay here." She looked at the stone house. Her home now. "We hold this position until Lucas returns with the marshal. That might be never. Then we hold until we cannot hold any more. But I am not giving Crane my land, my family, or my life." The men gathered in the main room. 5 weathered cowboys who had worked this ranch for years. Bill Crawford, Old Pete, the Jensen brothers, young Samuel, barely 18. Mara looked at each of them. "I will not lie to you. We are outgunned and outnumbered. Some of us may die today." She paused. "Anyone who wants to leave, no shame. This is not your fight." No one moved. "Begging your pardon, ma'am," Bill said. "But it is our fight. Lucas Harding is a good man who treated us fair, and you have proven yourself worthy of this ranch. We stand with you." Mara felt tears threaten. She blinked them back. "Then let us prepare. Crane is coming." Mrs. Kowalski found her loading rifles in the kitchen. "I misjudged you," the housekeeper said quietly. Mara looked up. "When you first came here, I thought you were just another desperate girl selling herself." Mrs. Kowalski's voice softened. "I was wrong. You are a woman making impossible choices to protect the people she loves. There is no shame in that. Only strength. Thank you." Mrs. Kowalski picked up a rifle of her own. "Now show me how to use this thing." Crane came with the dawn. 15 men on horseback spreading out to surround the stone house. Rifles gleaming in the early light. Murder in their eyes. Mara watched from the window, her own rifle ready. "Last chance, Mrs. Harding," Crane's voice carried across the yard. "Sign the deed and nobody else has to die." Mara's response was a bullet that took off his hat. The battle began. The first wave came from the east. 4 men rushing the front door. Mara and Bill cut down 2 before they reached the porch. The Jensen brothers got the other 2. Second wave from the west. More men, more guns. Old Pete took a bullet to the leg but kept firing. Hours passed. Ammunition ran low. 2 of their men lay dead in the hallway. And still Crane's forces came. "They are going to burn us out," Bill shouted. Mara saw it too. Men with torches approaching from multiple directions. Fire! The thing that haunted Lucas's nightmares. The thing that had taken his face and his mother's mind. Now it was coming for her. "Everyone to the center of the house," Mara ordered. "Away from the walls." They retreated, dragging their wounded. Smoke began to seep through the cracks. Mara thought of Lucas, thought of her family, thought of everything she had fought so hard to protect. It could not end like this. It would not end like this. Then she heard it. Gunfire. A lot of it. Coming from outside. Lucas. He burst through the burning front door like an avenging angel. Behind him came a dozen men wearing the badges of territorial deputies. The territorial marshal himself followed, a grim-faced man with a warrant in his hand. "Victor Crane, you are under arrest for the murder of Henry Ellington and conspiracy to commit fraud." The battle turned in an instant. Crane's hired guns surrendered or fled. The fire was extinguished. The wounded were tended. And Crane himself stood in the yard, face twisted with rage. "You cannot prove anything." His voice was desperate now. "It is the word of a traumatized boy against mine. Not just Thomas's word." Lucas held up a leather journal. "Your father's journal, Mara. He documented everything. Every threat, every meeting, every detail about the silver in Crane's interest. He knew he might be killed. He left the evidence for you to find." The journal Mara had found the night of her father's funeral. The seed planted in the first chapter, finally bearing fruit. "You will hang for this," the marshal said, "or spend the rest of your life in the territorial prison. Either way, your days of terrorizing this valley are over." Crane lunged for a fallen pistol. Lucas was faster. His shot took Crane in the leg, dropping him screaming to the dirt. "Not worth killing," Lucas said quietly. "Let the law have him." Dawn rose over the damaged ranch. The fires were out. The battle was won. Crane was in chains, bound for Helena and justice. Lucas and Mara stood in the wreckage, holding each other. "I'm sorry about the house," Lucas said. "Houses can be rebuilt." Mara looked up at him. "We cannot. We. He kissed her then, in front of the deputies and the ranch hands and God himself. When they finally broke apart, Mara smiled. "You kept your word. You came back. I always keep my word." He touched her face gently. "And I always will." 3 months later, the ranch was still being rebuilt. Workers came every day, hammering and sawing and raising new walls where fire had destroyed the old. It was not finished, not perfect, but it was home. Mara's mother sat in a chair by the window, knitting slowly. The consumption had not been cured, but proper medicine and rest had worked wonders. She was stronger now, hopeful. Thomas was in school in town, learning to smile again. The nightmares still came sometimes, but less often. He was healing. Clara had adopted every stray animal on the property. Dogs, cats, a 3-legged chicken she had named Lucky. She was happy. That was all that mattered. Lucas still had nightmares. Mara would wake to find him rigid beside her, trapped in memories of fire and death. She would hold him until the trembling stopped, whisper his name until he came back to her. They were both damaged, both scarred, but they were healing together. One evening, Mara took Lucas to visit his mother. Agnes sat in her little cabin at the edge of the property, rocking in her chair, humming songs from another life. She had a lucid moment when they arrived. Her eyes cleared, focused on Lucas's face. "My boy," she touched his scarred cheek. "My beautiful boy. I am here, Mother. I am sorry I could not save more of you. You saved what mattered." Agnes looked at Mara. Her eyes were wise and sad and knowing. "You take care of him. He pretends to be strong, but he is fragile, so fragile." "I know." Mara took the old woman's hand. "I will take care of him." Agnes smiled. Then she slipped back into confusion, the moment of clarity gone. Lucas wept. It was the first time Mara had seen him truly cry. She held him while his body shook, while years of grief and guilt poured out. When it was over, he looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. "Thank you for understanding, for not running." "I will never run." Mara kissed his scarred cheek. "I choose to stay." That evening, they sat on the newly built porch and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and red. "I keep thinking about the day we met," Mara said. "I came here to sell myself. I was so certain I was giving up everything. And now I know I was not giving up anything. I was trading one kind of survival for another, a worse kind for a better kind." Lucas was quiet for a moment. "Then, what did I give you? You keep saying I changed everything, but I have never understood what you mean." Mara thought carefully. "You gave me permission to be weak." Lucas frowned. "Before I came here, I had to be strong. All the time. For my mother, for Thomas, for Clara. I could not afford to break, to need help, to be anything less than perfect. And that was killing me." She turned to face him. "Here, you let me be scared, be angry, be confused. You did not need me to be strong every second. You just needed me to be real. I did not give you that. You took it. Maybe. But you made a space where I could." "You want to know what you gave me?" Lucas asked. Mara nodded. He touched his scarred face. "You made this matter less. When you look at me, I do not see disgust or pity or fear. I see me, just me. The man, not the monster." He paused. "I spent 10 years believing I was a devil, that the fire marked what I really was inside. And you just looked at me like I was a man who had been hurt and survived. Nothing more. nothing less, because that is what you are. No one ever told me that before. A week later, they rode out to the meadow where Lucas had nearly died in the old fire. The grass had grown back green and thick. Wildflowers bloomed where ashes had fallen. "I want to say new vows," Lucas said. "Not the ones we said in church. Those were business. These are real. I am listening. I do not promise to be good, I am not. I do not promise never to hurt you. I probably will, because I am damaged and difficult. But I promise to choose you every day, even the days I hate myself, even the days you hate me. I will keep choosing you." Mara felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "And I promise to stay. Not because I have nowhere else to go. I do now. I have options, I have skills, I could survive alone. But I do not want to. I choose to stay. With you. Through whatever comes." Lucas pulled her close. "Then we start over. Right here. Right now. Yes. We start over." As they rode back to the ranch, Mara took Lucas's hand and placed it on her stomach. "There is something else." Lucas looked at her. Understanding slowly dawned. We are going to have a child." His face transformed. Joy, terror, wonder, all at once. "I do not know how to be a father. Neither do I. We will figure it out. Together. Together." 1 year later. Mara stood on the finished porch, their daughter in her arms. Hope, they had named her. Because that was what she represented. Lucas rode in from the fields, Thomas and Clara running to greet him. Her mother sat nearby, knitting slowly, smiling at the scene. Lucas dismounted, kissed his wife, took the baby. Hope reached up with tiny fingers and touched his scarred face. She giggled. The scar did not frighten her. To her, it was just Papa. Lucas looked up and met Mara's eyes. No words, just a nod, an acknowledgement. "I see you. I know you. I choose you." Mara nodded back. She came to him with nothing but desperation and a borrowed dress. He took her in with nothing but cold terms and calculated need. Neither expected what grew between them. Not love at first sight. Something harder. Something truer. Love built from shared scars and matched stubbornness. Love forged in fire and tested by enemies. Love that was not a feeling but a choice made again every single day. She sold herself to a cowboy to save her family. And what he gave her changed everything, not safety. She learned she could create that herself, not wealth. She discovered she did not need it, not even love. That was something they built together. What he gave her was simpler and harder, and worth more than all of it combined. Permission to be human, permission to be imperfect, permission to be loved anyway. And in return, she gave him the same. That was not a happy ending. It was something better, a beginning. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with valuable life lessons. Every narrative is crafted to entertain, inspire, and empower our audience. We believe that great stories can change lives, and we are committed to bringing you content that matters. Thank you for being part of our community.